So then after that, Madeleine is kidnapped and Bond has to save her. It's a tad bit reckless. Bond's trying to rescue Madeleine, but he could just have easily have killed her. You know, it's like a tad bit reckless, but whatever. What are you going to do?
But even that scene doesn't make sense because it's like, all right, well, the logic here is that Mr. Hinks knows, right? Because he's seen the surveillance, which is part of the themes of the movie. He's seen the surveillance footage. He's already seen the conversation. He knows what Bond's after. Bond's after the L'Americon. He doesn't know what it is. He's after that. And the only person who knows what it is Madeleine Swann. Great. And the only reason Mr. Hinks needs to find this, not to catch Bond, but to stop Bond from ruining their plans. So would it not make more sense to just shoot her right then and there instead of kidnap her? I don't know.
Yeah, what was he going to do with her?
But this movie wants Blofeld to chew these scenes. So it's like, well, we got to bring her to Blofeld.
You'd think that there would have been a whole sequence of Hinks trying to kill her, and she runs away, and she puts on some skis, and she starts skiing down that mountain, and Bond chases after it. They're trying to kill her, but Bond's after them on skis instead of the plane.
Man, we could have wrote a better movie.
That actually would have been pretty great because at that point, you're right. Why didn't they just shoot her on the spot?
Because that's their motivation at that point. It's like they just have to stop Bond. But no, the movie doesn't want that to happen because the movie's like, well, we have to have the scene with Blofeld and Madeleine Swann. And it's like, unless Blofeld is like, no, I need you to bring Madeleine Swann in as well.
I'm in love with her.
You were just a girl when I saw you first. I came to your home once to see your father.
I don't remember that.
But I do.
He rescues Madeleine. They end up at L'Americain, which is a place and not a person.
I still think, and again, here's the thing. I know I said the midpoint is where it starts to go down here to hill.
Yeah.
I do like the calmness and like them because again, one of my critiques I've always said about Goldeneye, even though it's it's our top list, we all agree on that, is that it just seems really strange that Natasha is just really quick to jump his bones. Natasha, Natalia
Fyodorowna Semyonova.
So she's really quick to jump Bond's bones right at that moment when they're right off the train.
Hell yeah.
And I always find that scene to be a little odd. Like, it's like,
I
guess I can kind of buy it.
They kiss. They don't
sure.
Right there on the train
But this movie does kind of like, yeah, they're not going to fall in love right away because she's already sees through his tricks and she's like tearing down all his advances.
But then she does. No, we'll get to that. We'll get to why you're wrong. We'll get to why you're right. You're right for
I'm
now.
Wrong.
You'll be wrong in a few minutes. Anyway, so I do love, it is goofy. It's definitively goofy and self-aware. Like I already mentioned, as franchises go on, they get goofy and self-aware.
You just killed James Bond.
I do love Who Sent You?
Who sent you? Who are you working for?
A genre joke.
That's so funny.
That's a really, really good joke, but it is goofy and self-aware. It's what I've been saying, like, you just killed James Bond. Like, it's just as goofy and self-aware, but I do think it's really funny. I do like it. Suddenly Madeleine, she has a moment where she's like, oh my God, Daddy did love me. Dad had all these photos of me in his
I've
office.
seen that in other movies too. That's
me.
what's funny is like I've seen recently, it was like Ghostbusters Afterlife. They have that exact same cliche.
Did care. He did care for me.
Egon cared. He actually did. He had all these pictures of me in his basement.
But here's what's stupid. Is that right after that, Bond's like, okay, your job in this script is done. He's like, you don't need to come with me. She's like, I know.
But I want to understand what happened to my father.
That's the only justification for why she comes with. And it's like, what do you not understand? Your dad was part of this thing, and then he grew a conscience, and now he's dead. That is a terrible justification and a sloppy, singular line to justify why she's coming along with. I want to understand what happened to my father. What happened to your dad?
Now I understand why my father lost his mind.
Everybody already knows. The audience already knows. She should be
So
able to assume what happened.
Right.
Why does she go with? And like, if you couple that with the end of the movie where she suddenly shows up at the soon to be exploded MI6, you can kind of see the seams of the original script where like maybe originally she didn't go with Bond to Blofeld's compound. Maybe Bond went by himself and then later she showed up at the soon to be exploded MI6. You know what I'm saying? It's like they had all these horrible drafts and they combined them and everything got messy and then they were like, just need to go in production before we're done with the script. Like, that's this whole movie. So she should never have gone with him to Blofeld's compound and should have just shown up at the end. She should have just been tied up, ready to die at the end of the film. But instead, they decided to have her go with him. So the train sequence begins.
Because they have to go to Morocco. They have to go. They're like, they look at the map and they're like, okay, we know it's here and it's in the middle of nowhere. How do we get there? We have to take this train. It's the only major transportation we could take. There's no plane. There's nothing else.
No plane, no train.
Which doesn't also make sense. Why didn't they take a plane? But whatever.
Whatever. They took a train because pastiche of other Bond movies that are better than this movie, right?
Why, given every other possible option, does a man choose the life of a paid assassin?
Why be an assassin? Why be a spy? And he says,
I'm not sure I ever had a choice.
which conflicts, as many things do, conflicts with the last movie.
This is what you made us.
I made my own choices.
You think you did.
Silva's like, you think you made your own choices, but really M manipulated you. And Bond says, I made my own choices. Now suddenly he says, I don't think I ever had a choice but to become a spy and all that. So like those conflict. I don't think Bond learned from Silva that he never had a choice in the first place or whatever.
What would happen if you did?
Stop.
Yes.
I don't know.
But this dinner scene that they randomly have on the train, I think it is meant to echo his dinner with Vesper,
Just because you've done something doesn't mean you have to keep doing it.
where she questions his career. It's the same thing. She's like, why be a killer? And Madeleine here is like, why keep doing this? Why be a spy? But the difference is Vesper was always pushing Bond off, whereas Madeleine up until now has been pushing Bond off. But suddenly, for no reason, she shows up and she's looking really hot. Her resting bitch face goes away. Like all of a sudden, she's leaning in and she's like this. She's all about Bond.
That's what you're saying that I was wrong about, right? Because you were saying earlier I was wrong. Because, I mean, like, the L'Americain stuff, it's like there's maybe a hint of her being a little flirtatious.
Come anywhere near me, and I'll kill you.
But it's not, like, again, because of her style, she's very stonewally.
Yeah.
Bitch face, as you like to put it. And,
resting bitch face.
Resting
extreme.
bitch face.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you got a definite actress who could be a little more playful, but still be standoffish.
Yeah.
You could play those, like, do that back and forth. Maybe you could have pulled that off. Maybe you can pull the train scene.
She
off
is
more.
pushing Bond away, and then comes up with a BS reason to follow him. This vague thing about I need to figure out what happened to my father, even though there's no mystery there. And then she just suddenly decides, like she brought a dress with her, I guess, and a bunch of makeup to look hot for Bond. Whereas, remember when Vesper did it, it was because the two of them were undercover together. They were stuck together. So Bond says to her,
I need you looking fabulous, so that when you walk up behind me and kiss me on the neck, the players across from me will be thinking about your neckline and not about their cards. Do you think you can do that for me?
I'll do my best.
so she's like, well, f you, Bond. And she gets real hot. And she walks out and she's so hot that instead she distracts Bond. That's what's so great about that moment is that she got so hot that even Bond was like, wait, whose turn is it? Whereas with this, she just walks out looking hot out of nowhere. And there's like this beautiful music playing and Bond's like, oh my God, you shouldn't look this cute. It's so forced. It's so forced and ridiculous.
Right. And I think something like that may have worked better in the 60s, and only because it was like of the time, if you were going traveling, you would always look your best.
It would have worked in From Russia with Love because she wanted Bond to fall in love with her because she was in love with Bond. But she went from hating Bond to suddenly she's like, look at me.
Sure. My point about it, though, is I'm saying that's like, even within universe, if they're trying to look nice, it just seemed odd because it's like you're going to Morocco and you just left the L'Americain and like you're on the run. I just don't. But then again, I could make that about Bond saying like, well, why does he always have nice clothes? But whatever. But I mean, you do have a point.
My point being that in Casino Royale, he was challenging her to put on some makeup and put on a dress and look hot, and she was like, F you, dude, I'm gonna do just that, and I'm gonna do it so hard that even you are gonna fall for me.
Why is she looking this way, and why is she making all these subtly advancing towards him when prior she had no interest in him? I get what you're saying.